everyone, Aaron here for Zolotech, and the iPhone X has been out for about a year or so. I've been using it every single day since it came out until the iPhone XS Max came out, and then the iPhone XR. So I wanted to talk about how it's held up, whether or not you should pick one up or upgrade from your 10 to the XS, and compare it between those, and just see how the battery health is, and whether or not it's still a good value if you're trying to get your hands on one. So let's take a look now. The actual design of the 10 carries over to the XS, and as you can see, this one is in pretty good shape. This has been used for an entire year without a screen protector or a case for the most part. And as far as scratches on it and things like that, I don't think you're going to find too many. And now, if you have the other model, let me set this one down. If you have the other model, you may see a lot more scratches. Along the bottom here, this has been in a case the entire time. So this one is held up exceptionally well. There's no scrapes around the outside edges. Just on the bottom, you might see some very light ones in the correct light. Otherwise, it looks brand new. So if you keep it in a case, it's fine. And then this one has not used a screen protector the entire time. And I don't think you're going to find really many scratches on it. It's held up remarkably well for the glass that's on it, and probably better than some of my other phones. So this one is doing really well that way. Now, as far as the overall feel of it, it feels built a little bit better to me than the newer phones, and I'll show you that in a moment, but the actual tolerances seem to be tighter, and I don't know why that is. Maybe they spent a lot more time on this one and wanted to get it right, and that's why it came out a little bit later last year, but it overall feels very nice and put together really well. All the buttons work just fine. They're nice and clicky, and they're durable. Just like most iPhones, all the buttons usually hold up pretty well. We haven't had issues with that since the iPhone 4 era. Now, the display has held up really well over time as well. Now, one thing to note is this is an OLED display if you weren't aware already, so that means it gives off its own light. And after a few years, those can dim, but this one seems to be okay. Now, here is a XS, and next to a brand new XS, we'll set them at the same brightness levels. In fact, let's turn them both all the way up, so they're going to look a little bit blown out here on this camera, but they're very bright. They're about equal. Maybe this one is a little bit more dim, the 10, but it's about the same. The colors seem to be very close. Let's turn them both down to about the same right there. And colors are going to look about the same. Now, if we turn them way down, you can still see just as well, and they're about the same brightness either way, no matter how you're using them. So let's turn this back up so we can see it. And the phone itself, like I said, is held up well. Now, some people say this design ages quickly. For me personally, it still feels fairly fresh, but for some people, because we have the larger Max phone, it feels a little bit more fresh. But for some people, it seems old. Some articles are reporting that. I guess that could be the case. Just depends on your view on it. Now, as far as burn-in, I've had no issues with burn-in. Let me switch to a screen so we can see it. Now, I have an all-white background, and this is to check for burn-in and different ghosting of icons that might have been there, such as the battery indicator. You'll see there's no indication that that's there whatsoever. I don't see it anywhere on the display, and they've done a good job of shifting pixels around to prevent burn-in. That's a common thing on OLED displays, and Apple has combated that using whatever technology they're using to shift those pixels around. Now, as far as battery over time, this is a question I get all the time, is how should I charge my phone and everything. So know that this phone and the other iPhone X, I'll show you in a moment, were charged without caring about it whatsoever. When I'm in a vehicle, I plug it in to use Apple CarPlay or use the car's audio system and charge it. If I'm at home, I charge this overnight every single night for an entire year. So I don't monitor the battery or anything like that. I put it on a wireless charger or whatever's available. I usually use an Apple charger or a wireless charger. I'll link in the description. Now, as far as that goes, let's check the battery here. So here is battery health after 1 year on my iPhone X, and here's battery health on the iPhone X. This is actually my wife's phone, and after 1 year of charging it the exact same way, 97%. So it's okay if you have less than that. Apple says it's okay for 80% after 2 years, but this is without doing anything to monitor the battery. This is just plugging it in, charging it overnight, leaving it on the charger every single night and having no issues, and that's the battery capacity that's left. So it's holding up pretty well that way. Now, as far as the speed is concerned, inside this we have the A11 Bionic chip, 3 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigs of storage in this particular model. And it's plenty fast. This is the A12 Bionic in the XS. And let's take a few tests. We'll do a Geekbench and then open a couple applications and see how it does. Now, before we run the Geekbench, I just wanted to show you the display differences between the two. You'll see this is the 10, this is the XS, and you'll see both of them have True Tone off, brightness is about the same, and night shift is off on both of them. So there are some differences. I would say the 10 looks a little bit better than the XS, but that's just my opinion. So let's go ahead and close that. Let's close both our apps, or all our apps here. We'll go back into Geekbench and see what we get. So we'll wait for it to load. It's taking a little bit longer to load on the XS. There we go. We'll go to CPU and we'll run. Now, both of these are on the same version, iOS 12.1. So if you go back, you can see that. But iOS 12.1 on both of them. Run benchmark. And let's see what the results are when this is done. Now, both of them have completed, and you'll see the score differences are not as great as you might expect, but they're very similar. 4,821 versus 4,277, and 11,582 versus 10,732. So they're both very close. You're not going to notice slowdowns on the iPhone X. So let's go home here, and then let's open Minecraft, and then we're going to do one more test just to compare them to show you the differences. So we'll open up Minecraft here. This is the first time they've been installed and opened on both phones. So we'll wait for it to load. Again, you can see that difference in color as well. Hit OK. We'll just sign out of that. We don't want to sign in. We'll hit continue on both. We'll hit play. We'll create new. We'll create a new world. And create. And this can take a moment to load, but you'll see the iPhone X is doing quite well. And they're both about the same. In fact, the XS was a little bit slower, so it's not bad whatsoever. And you'll see if I scroll back here, this is the XS with the 11,000 Geekbench and the 10. So, and then they both resumed pretty quickly. And they're super fast, both of them. Let's do one more quick test as far as a comparison, and then we'll talk about whether or not you should buy one. Now, I have iMovie loaded on both of the phones. You'll see I have a 4-minute and 37-second project. It's a 4K video of something I haven't released yet, but it's the same video on both. I have the 10 on the left, XS on the right, and let's bring in the XS Max as a stopwatch. We'll slide these over here, and let's see how long it takes to export them. So we'll hit done. And then we'll share both of them. We'll hit save video. And then we'll hit 4K and see if I can hit start at the same time. There we go. And let's see how they do. So the iPhone X exported more quickly than the XS. So we'll wait for that to finish. And now both of them are done. So they're very close, but it's surprising that the XS actually is a little bit slower. So both of them are good, and you'll see there was a little stuttering there, but both of them are good, but that part was pretty surprising. Now, both of these have Face ID, and I wanted to show you a quick comparison whether or not it's that big of a deal. So let's unlock them again. We'll just tap the screens. And you'll see they unlocked at about the same time. They're very close. And we'll try it again. And that time it didn't work. So the conclusion of this as far as Face ID goes is Face ID, I've been using it for over a year now, but I also let my brother use this phone since he didn't have this one. And he said his one complaint was Face ID. He was coming from an 8 Plus, and Face ID works fine. It does work well, but I also miss Touch ID. Now, I may be in the minority there as far as that is concerned, but I prefer Touch ID over Face ID as far as its speed is concerned, especially in the morning when you're trying to look directly at a bright phone, things like that. I just find it easier. It's just my personal opinion on that. Now, whether or not you should buy an iPhone X now is up to you. They don't technically sell them anymore, but compared to the 10 and the XS, if you don't already have a 10, I would go for the XS. But if you already have a 10, I would definitely not upgrade. You're basically getting a better camera on the XS, a little bit better camera. You've got better speakers. The speakers on this are great, but you have a wider stereo sound. Basically, they made this speaker louder in the new one, and so both of them sound more stereo if you're watching a video this way. And then the other thing, too, is it's got the newer processor in the new one. But you saw from the tests that in real-world tests, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. The difference comes with a lot of AR applications. So if you're using those, that's where you'll see the difference. So let me know what you think, though, in the comments below. Do you like the 10? Did you upgrade if you have one or had one? Or do you think it's worth picking up if you can find one now, since they don't make it anymore? But if you can find them at stores left over and things, you could still pick one up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.